Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of India Ideas, a show where we talk about science and tech. We talk about innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm Gautam Roy, and we're looking at how health tech is now spurring medical tourism on in India, which was valued around $3 billion in 2015 and was expected to grow to $9 billion by 2020 before COVID struck. But now that vaccines are being rolled out, let's find out what health tech can do for Indian medical tourism. And to talk about it, we have with us today Pankaj Chandna, co-founder Vedam, which is a health tech startup which assists patients abroad in finding best possible treatment in India. Kalyan Sivaselam is with us as well, co-founder 5C Network, which is a tech-driven global radiology department, and he's got the background there to prove it. And Dhruv Suryaprakash is also with us, founder iClinic, which is a global medical second opinion platform. First, to you, Pankaj, just tell us about Vedam, because I believe there is a quite an interesting story in its about its origin as well, and how's the journey been so far?
Thank you for the opportunity, Gautam. I am happy to be here. So we started Vedam about 5 years ago, January 2016. The idea was very simple. We know that when a patient, no one plans to fall sick, and when you fall sick, you look for all help, support, and especially if you are stuck in a situation where the treatment is not available in your city and in your country, then the problem grows multifold. So you look for every place all over the world. You talk to friends, family, and thankfully you come to internet as well. So that's where we come in. We created an online platform where patients come in with their medical problems. They find who are the right doctors, which is the right hospital, how much is it going to cost me, for how long do I have to stay out of my country, what kind of recovery can I expect, what are the success rates of a treatment, so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
patients reach out to us, they leave their inquiry, and then we help them with all the process that follow, starting from visa assistance. We arrange for the airport pickups, take care of them in the hospital. In the last 5 years, we are fortunate, we have received patients from 94 countries. As At a country level, India has received patients from 126. So I say that we are very few behind. And last year, leaving 2020 aside, we just grew older without doing much. 2019, there were almost 500,000 patients who traveled to India for medical treatment.
Yes.
Of course, the countries which are nearby to us, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Iraq, they are the majority contributor. But like I mentioned, patients from far, far areas, like I know we have received patients from Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Fiji Islands. These are places which take 30 hours to arrive to India. But patients, once they fall sick, they are looking for all help and everything that they can do.
And they can get all the help that they need in India. They just have to find the right way to do it and the right people. And I'm hoping we have some of them with us today. Also in radiology, if we talk about it, Kalyan, 5C
Yep.
Network is perhaps what Vedam does in terms of treatment. It is to radiology.
Yep. So I think Gautam absolutely right. I mean, we help hospitals and diagnostic centers get access to the very best radiology talent in India, and give actionable and fast reports so that doctors and patients can together make better and faster decisions, which invariably lead to better healthcare outcomes. And I think, because we're talking about medical tourism, I think definitely a shout out to our incredible medical fraternity, who have built this infrastructure where people from now 126 countries, I think Pankaj has said, are actually coming to India for treatment. And what we've realized is that radiology talent and diagnostic talent is at a very, very high level in our country. And the first problem that 5C solved was making this talent available not only in your Mumbai's and your Pune's and your Bangalore's and your Delhi's, but also in the interior areas of the country, right? Why not in Basti? Why not in Begusarai? Why not in Tirunelveli? And now that why we have begun to really get in and solve that problem, the next thing that we're looking at is how can we use India's incredible medical talent base and diagnostic talent base to serve patients all over the world. And I think that is super exciting. And I think the future is bright for Indian health tech startups Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what about you, Dhruv? Because iClinic is slightly different because it helps people get a second medical opinion, and this too could, I mean, there's no geographical limits. It could be within India, in the farthest of corners, the most rural places, or it could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, in fact, we started as a platform, telemedicine platform for the domestic markets, for India alone. But then we saw, a lot of NRIs were using a platform, and then when we started talking to our customers, the patients, they said that they were not able to, these are people who moved to the respective countries very recently, right? And we were helping them out, and that's when we realized, why can't we go global? That thought process helped us to shift to a global model from 2015. And I would say that it has been a phenomenal journey. Right now, we have patients across 100 plus countries. To be more precise, we are rated among the top 5 telemedicine platforms of the world, among the likes of billion-dollar listed companies like Teladoc, Doctor and Iman, and these companies. And we have doctors around the world, right? So we have doctors. We have 3,500 doctors around the world. I would say Indian doctors are like Pankaj and Kalyan said, they are, I would say, they are of top-notch quality. I mean, they're unbeatable in their own arena, right? I think it's all because of the fact that we have a very strong STEM education in India. Apart from that, the medical training which they undergo in their universities is like immense. The number of cases, the number of what do you call niches they say in India are extremely diverse. So I think we are living in interesting times, and yeah. So I'm happy to be here, Gautam. So and also with these two gentlemen.
Thank you. Now, Pankaj, your enterprise, apart from having a strong tech base, also requires a very intense and hands-on service experience as well, perhaps even logistics, and maybe tech helps with that as well. So tell us about, what all does tech do to help your enterprise and your patients, the ones that you get across to India?
Okay. So there are many complexities in our business. Number one being the language of the patients, what the patient speak, because of all the patients who are coming, not all speak English and Hindi. So in our team, we have people who can speak 9 languages. So we can speak French, Arabic, Russian, Portuguese, Romanian, Moldovan, and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing. We have to be ready to handle patients from any territory. And again, there are a number of packages. The treatments that a patient is looking for is not 10, 20, or 30. There are hundreds and thousands of such procedures. So we have an intelligent software. We hire, number one, we hire medically trained people. We have people who have studied dentistry. We have people who have studied Ayurveda, homeopathy. So they are technically doctors who are working in our team. And then on top of their medical knowledge, we enhance it with our software and our technology skills by looking at the information in a very seamless, in a faster way, so that they can give information to the patient exactly the way he wants. And like I mentioned, it is not just the amount, it's not just the price. Patient is also looking for a lot of other content, how this will happen, how that will happen. So we constantly are working on creating such content. The
Okay.
dissemination of content, the way it is presented to the patient. If you are sending a spine patient information on cardiology, he's not interested. If
Mhm.
he's looking at a scoliosis spine correction treatment, if you give him, okay, this is how our next surgery is done, he's not interested. So that is the intelligence of our software. We have mapped these hundreds of procedures. We personally meet all these doctors of various specialty. We understand the domain, and then we integrate in our technology to make it very, very patient specific information. So that
Okay.
is the role of technology in our business.
Mhm. And Kalyan, in your case, radiology is already highly specialized, and I believe you have specialized tech algorithms to help radiologists also, get the best image possibly as well, because otherwise it would be difficult to give a completely, 100% assured and, completely confident opinion about, an image that you're seeing, not really actually in front of you, but through some other screen.
Yeah. Absolutely, Gautam. So There are a bunch of things that go into our technology to help our radiologists be faster, more accurate, and more consistent at their reporting. It starts with giving them an interface that is as uncluttered as possible. And I think that's where really technology starts coming in, because we have really innovated a lot on the user experience for radiologists. And we have literally done eye tracking to understand what a radiologist is looking at for every type of scan, right? And it starts with that. But then there is this whole backend software that for every, so like you said, radiology is very specialized. So there are neuro, nephro, cardiac, pediatric, musculoskeletal, cardiac. There's so many different subspecialties in radiology. And for every case that comes in, we have an algorithm that finds the best available radiologist who has a proven track record in that type
And
of
that's
case.
a proprietary algorithm?
Absolutely. It's called MaxFlow that we have built in-house. And on top of that, now 47% of all scans on 5C are actually AI assisted. So, if it's a chest X-ray, the scan is automatically pre-read for the radiologist, and the radiologist can then decide whether the interpretation is correct or make their changes. And we have also released recently an algorithm to detect brain bleeds in CT scans. So if a critical patient comes in and the patient has a bleed, we turn that report back on an average in 13 minutes. And there have been so many stories, I'm happy to say, where our technology and our intervention has literally directly led to lives saved. And so there are multiple ways in which 5C is helping radiologists through technology be better at what they do.
Right, right. And in your case, as far as getting second opinion is concerned, of course, all these doctors who would be on your platform would be needing all the medical history, perhaps scans of different tests that have been taken. How does it really work, Dhruv? Because a second opinion is a second opinion. You cannot have patients be, undergoing another set of tests, do you?
Yeah. So in fact, in India we do first opinions, and out of India we do second opinions, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the time, the second opinion is a critical decision to take, right? So what we do is we clearly tell them that whatever reports they have can be sent to us, and we only suggest further tests be taken with coordination with their primary care physician or their doctor. See, what happens is, the reason for people to opt for second opinion is that in various countries, what happens is, they're part of an insurance system where the doctors are incentivized to operate, certain procedures, right, which in reality can be avoided. And that's why people go for second. There's nothing wrong in what the doctor may do. It's just that, we give them all the options to do. And that's what has been helpful for our patients.
And this and tech helps a lot in this as well.
Absolutely. In fact, I would say the way we credential the doctors, since we have doctors all around the world, the way we onboard them, the way we moderate consultations or the second opinions. In fact, we have a very stringent moderation method, and that's our proprietary system. It's a 60-page document which we evolved on our own, and that's the reason for being rated among the top 5 telemedicine platforms. It looks at various. In fact, empathy is a major factor for the doctor's answers, because again, the biggest challenge for telemedicine is empathy. Right? When you see a doctor in person, the doctor will be able to understand your emotions and different things, but not when you speak to them online. So yeah.
Yes, certainly. Well, that's great. But let's talk about the phase that we've just seen, the year 2020, which a lot of people would like to forget. But Pankaj, tell us to what extent was the impact felt, in your sector, in startups in medical tourism in the first place, and what you're doing about it now that things have begun to open up, vaccines are being rolled out, and there is hope. I think travel is being renewed as well internationally as well, bit by bit.
So March 12th, I very vividly remember the date when the government announced that all visas that were issued stand suspended. And the lockdown happened 2 weeks later. But our story, because none of our future patients were able to travel because their visas were cancelled as of that date. So obviously, our industry was most definitely struck, because we are dependent on patients coming into India, and if there are no visa, there are no flights. So that was one obviously a clear impact. Thankfully, now government has started opening up, and we have formed air bubble agreement with 14 countries, and at least the patient from those 14 countries are welcome to travel, obviously if they are coming for a serious medical care. Obviously that is only still, let's say, 15 to 20% of what we were getting. If there were 100 patients traveling, now that number is probably 10 or 12. So India as a the industry is still suffering, and we are slowly coming out of it. But as a company, we were fortunate. We found some good opportunities while the pandemic was happening. So we started sending patients to more destinations. So
Okay.
earlier we were only promoting India as a destination, but we realized that medical tourism is also a regional phenomenon. Patient wants to stay as close to his house as possible. And then we obviously, it was always in our mind, and we knew that India compete with at least 20 more such countries where patient is considering when they decide to travel. So we thought, why not use it as an opportunity to collaborate with those countries and start referring to them. So
Okay.
we started referring patients to the like of Germany, South Korea, Thailand, Tunisia, Egypt, because most of these countries, they receive patients from their neighboring countries. So that was one good opportunity that we cracked, and thankfully, I would say that we are now at least about 50% of our business, even though India is hardly 10% of where we were.
Okay.
The second good thing that we started doing, we started helping patients within India as well. As you understand, India is huge. The geography is vast. So patients from northeast states, patients from far-flung northern states, they probably may not have the right healthcare infrastructure available. So they look for options in cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad. So that's where they come in contact with us, because again they have similar questions. I have this medical problem, where do I go, who is the doctor, how much is the price? So we started helping hospitals, not just with the international, with the domestic as well. So thankfully, with those two things, we are able to sustain. And like everyone was said, that if you the objective of 2020 should be survival. If you just keep standing, and then you have unlimited opportunities. Thankfully, we are not just surviving, we have found more ways. So I hope that by the end of 2021, we will be 3x where we were in 2019, because we have more opportunities to do now.
Wonderful, wonderful. That sounds great. What has been your experience, Kalyan, for your business? Something similar to what Pankaj has found during this tough phase, or you have a different story to tell?
Similar and vastly different. April, May, and June were obviously complete lockdown months, and most of my time was spent on planning for survival, making sure that the company lives. Because in April, I think the startup mantra was our first order of business is to stay in business. Because we were in the radiology space, which is also reasonably closely related to emergency services, there was always business coming through. And then an important thing happened where, because RT-PCR tests were taking so long, and because global experts started agreeing on the fact that CT scans were in some cases much better than RT-PCR cases in identifying COVID, our business, really, shot up from there on the back of that. And, over the course of the last 7 months, we are by far the leader in reporting COVID CT scans in India. We have recently crossed 130,000 COVID CT scans in India. So we're even writing a white paper on the severity of COVID as seen through CT scans, which probably nobody else in the country has insight into. And so the business has really grown since then. And more hospitals and diagnostic centers are realizing the real value proposition of 5C. And we're just trying to continuously ride this good wave and make sure that we are delivering the same service levels and quality that our clients always expect. So it's been down and up, and very, very interesting, as we will all agree. Yeah.
Okay, and about you, Dhruv, COVID-19, both a challenge and opportunity for you as well, for your business at iClinic?
I think it has been the year where telemedicine went mainstream. So our business scaled at least 4x. And we had already built a great supply of doctors, and we were able to match that we have iClinic is, we have a large, large content on a platform. People regularly engage with the content. So a lot of effort was put in to create COVID-related content, and we had to do a lot of research in doing it. And I think for any telemedicine platform around the world, the government has been extremely, the respective governments have been extremely supportive. And to quote India, India brought the telemedicine guidelines, which is phenomenal. I think I would say it's on par with the best in the world. So this has been the year where we also, decided that we should, continue doing what we're doing and not focus on anything else. In 2019, we were wondering whether we should focus on other business areas, but then, we just thought we should stick with this. We are a bootstrap company, by the way, and we were, plowing our own money and doing things, and now we are profitable as well. So yeah, 2019, 2020 has been, I would say, a good year for us.
Great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. And Pankaj, in terms of government policy, the government has done a lot for startups ever since, going back to Startup India when it started almost 5 years ago. But yours is the medical tourism, health tech space. So there is policy overlap with health as well. So how is that working, the overall policy ecosystem for you? Do you think that enough is being done to encourage startups here, or is there room for more?
I think from a government perspective, two things have really helped our industry, because we are not just health, we are also related to travel. And
Yes.
Since the day government launched electronic visa, now e-visas are being granted to about 128 countries around the world. And the easier you make it for someone to come to India, the faster they will travel. So this has been really a game changer for us, because I remember almost 2 years ago, our patients have started to apply for electronic visa. They just sit at home. In fact, we have set up a department within our own company to assist patients apply for e-visa. They just sit at home, share the information. Within 48 hours, the electronic visa is arrived, and they just travel. The second thing is this medical tourism has largely been a very unorganized sector, and government and there are other regulatory authorities which are taking steps to organize. And NABH, which is an accreditation body for hospitals and laboratories in India, they were given additional responsibility to do the accreditation for medical travel companies.
Right.
And Vedam, we are fortunate. We are, I think, the 6th company in India that was awarded that accreditation. And the number is growing right now. In fact, we are now at the time of renewal for our NABH. We have already completed 2 years for that. So these two things are helping us to standardize offerings. Government has taken, at least government is looking at medical travel, because it's a very niche for travel. But at the same time, it's also a very important sector, because it brings forex to our industry. I mean, to our economy. Like you mentioned, $3 billion was 2015. By the time to 2019, we were already doing $6 billion. So definitely, we love forex coming into the country, and it gives jobs and opportunity to the lowest of the economy, because all we need is some basic interpreters, people who could speak the language of the patient. Yes. So the jobs are definitely helping. So government has been looking into this sector, and some of them are very positive impacts.
Right. What is your perspective here, Kalyan?
Gautam, I think that as Dhruv had said initially, I think the government very quickly, I think towards the end of March itself, came out with the telemedicine guidelines. And they did do a bunch of proactive things, and kudos to them. From my perspective, I think that the one thing that maybe the government is missing out is, and it's a fact that I've seen across, right, is that if you look at the NHS in the UK, Indians pretty much run the NHS. If you look at some of the leading doctors in the United States, so many of them are Indian. So we have huge equity in terms of our medical systems, right? People who graduate from Indian medical colleges go on to become, world leaders in their fields in other countries. Is this an opportunity for India to go and sign, treaties with these countries, allowing Indian MBBS and MD degrees to be recognized so that Indian doctors can practice remotely? I think that could be something really interesting. And we already have a deal, for example, I believe with the Maldives, and there are a couple of other countries where India is already, going and trying to have bilateral, medical degree kind of like a tie-up with these countries at a governmental level. Mm-hmm. Can we do this with larger economies? Because Indian doctors are, like I said in the beginning of the show itself, some of the very best in the world, who can practice sitting in India remotely. So I think that will also add huge benefits to the medical fraternity here and to the economy in general.
Okay, I'm sure this is something that you would also advocate, Dhruv. But just let me know quickly what you think can be done that might really help as far as both health tech startups like yours are concerned, but overall the goal of enhancing, increasing medical tourism in the country.
I think the government is to add to what Kalyan says. I think the signing treaties would be a great place to start with, and I also feel that government is getting there. With the NDH and the National Digital Health Mission, which was announced recently. Work is happening for it in full swing. I think I would say we are living in the UPA moment for digital healthcare. It is one of the greatly focused areas for the government. So we are getting there. I am extremely bullish about that.
Okay, and as far as the overall issue of getting good quality medical health care, which is also affordable, Pankaj, how can startups help in that? Because anywhere you go, if you want quality health care, it is quite expensive, and tech can work on perhaps solving that particular issue as well.
Well, so Gautam, you are right. Healthcare is while we as an Indian we feel that our healthcare is expensive. If you look at the perspective from foreigners, they would sometimes not come to India because they feel there is something wrong here. How can it be done so affordable and so cheaper? So
It's all relative.
yes, it is all very relative, and that is also a problem sometimes because they start thinking there is something not appropriate happening in this country. I would not want to go where this surgery can be done at this price, but they forget that there are cost structure. Obviously healthcare has become expensive, and it is also largely because of the newer innovation and newer technologies. Adopting a machine which was earlier not available, the medicines which were earlier not available. There is a more and more pharmaceutical drugs which are being now made available for treatments, especially for life-threatening disease like
Yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
The companies spend so much of fortune of the money on R&D, and they obviously have to recover that. So pharmacy, newer technology for radiology and investigations, all this new innovation make healthcare more and more expensive.
Mhm.
While I'll say expensive on one side, at the same time all these things have come as a boon to the patients, because earlier these treatments were not available. They were offered at a poorer success rate. The prognosis was not good. So while all this is happening, we should be fortunate and thankful that at least India
Okay.
as a country, while people may say we are an underdeveloped or a developing country in terms of healthcare, we are among the top 5 where world would come for the treatment. So like
Okay.
Kalyan was saying,
Okay. Okay. But it's always good to hope that instead of doing a cost benefit analysis, you just do a benefit analysis at the end of the day. And I'm sure our health tech startups can power that as well. I'm completely out of time, so thank you so much for joining us to talk about it today. Your enterprises in the health tech space, which is growing medical tourism. More power to you. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.